The movie begins with two kids coming near Liza's house wearing Halloween costumes, but at the last minute, they decide to skip her house. She watches them from the window. Then, she goes to her computer to write for her book, but feels stuck and loses her idea. When she stands up, she notices her door is slightly open. The woman panics, thinking someone has opened it. She moves back slowly, and someone suddenly taps her from behind. It is her acquaintance, Bert. Before she can fully recover, Marcy steps in through the other door. Bert casually wishes them a happy Halloween, while Marcy gives Liza an apologetic look for the situation. Liza brushes it off, not too bothered, though the unease still lingers. Marcy asks about her writing. Before waiting for her answer, Marcy turns to Bert, telling him to go outside and look for her niece, Zoe. He hesitates, reminding her that Zoe bit him last time, but after a brief pause, he sighs and agrees, disappearing outside. With Bert gone, Marcy brings the conversation back to Liza's writing. Liza admits she's behind, and if she doesn't finish by next week, her publisher will be furious. She explains that all her stories end up being about a husband taking his daughter from his wife and running off with his new girlfriend. As she speaks, the weight of her own reality presses down on her. Marcy picks up on it immediately, offering quiet reassurance that Tori will return once things settle down. Liza feels down, telling Marcy that she made a Halloween costume for Tori. Marcy continues to encourage her to look at things positively. Liza wants to share a secret with Marcy, but Bert keeps interrupting their conversation from outside. Sighing, Marcy asks Liza to give her a call and leaves. Meanwhile, a boy named Tim stands before his employer, frustrated. He explains that without his wages, he can't pay for his semester. However, Robustelli refuses, stating that Tim's work is unacceptable and that he must follow the instructions. Tim argues that the girl wasn't in the right situation, but Robustelli remains firm and refuses to pay him. Frustrated, Tim warns Robustelli that he will report him before leaving. Another colleague then arrives, praising Robustelli when he hears about Tim's punishment. Robustelli instructs him to prepare for the next Halloween event, handing him a briefcase and a gun to drop at the overnight vault. He tells the man to be careful. As the man leaves, he picks up a clown mask, admiring it. Just then, he hears a gunshot from outside and rushes to check on his money. He finds the man lifeless with a wound to his neck, but Robustelli's focus is on the money. On the ground, he sees a single dollar bill, which leads him to the Halloween house. Without hesitation, Robustelli enters, finding the house dimly lit and dark. The workers try to scare Robustelli, but he doesn't take them seriously, knowing that Halloween is the next day. He enters another room and demands that the man who took the money return it, but there's no response. Then, he hears a whisper and follows the sound. He enters another room, where he sees a shadow. The shadow tells him it's his turn to be frightened. The scene cuts off with his inhumane shriek. The next day, several people visit the Halloween house. Among them, a couple notice Robustelli in the cage. Robustelli asks for help, but the couple assumes it's part of the game and leaves him without helping. On the other side, a doorbell rings at Liza's house. She knows it's Halloween and opens the door with a candy in hand. She admires the kid's costume and gives him candy for both him and his parents. When she notices he's alone, she asks where his parents are. The boy says they're at home, and Liza advises him to be careful. Disturbed by the sound of her daughter's voice in her mind, Liza goes back to writing. Meanwhile, a man stops his car, wishes the boy a happy Halloween, and notices that he's alone. The man convinces the boy to get into the car, promising to take him home. He takes the kid to his own home, wanting to keep him company while he's in his Halloween costume. Once inside, the man hears a strange noise. When he returns to the living room, he finds the kid eating his from a small cage. The man quickly heads to another room and locks the door. But when he comes out, the kid suddenly attacks him, leaving him lifeless. Well, that was unexpected. Meanwhile, Liza pours herself a glass of whiskey. The doorbell rings, and she opens the door to find a kid. She gives him a candy, but the kid notices a sound and asks if someone is inside. Liza reassures her that there's no one else inside, quickly cutting the conversation short by wishing the kid a happy Halloween. Liza then heads to the basement door and listens for any sounds. She calls Marcy, confessing that she's done something bad, but before she can explain further, Marcy, distracted by her kids, hangs up, unable to talk. Liza feels a deep sense of loneliness, realizing she has no one to confide in. Later, a group of women friends are upset with their friend Mercedes for a post she made just a minute ago, blaming her for her behavior. Unexpectedly, Mercedes asks who drank alcohol, but they all deny it. Sam, one among the group, talks about Steve, mentioning that she went out with him last summer. She adds that he didn't recognize her in her costume. Mercedes, mocking Sam, suggests it's not the costume, but her nose that caused the problem. The others laugh, and Sam, frustrated, tries to hide her irritation. The conversation shifts, and the group begins discussing the girl they slayed. They decide to play with a Ouija board. Sam takes the lead, guiding the game. They all place their fingers on the board, though Mercedes mocks the process at first. Sam asks the Ouija board to communicate with them, and the board begins to move, responding to their questions. After some navigation, Sam apologizes for the girl's demise, but the board responds unexpectedly. It refuses and moves to spell die, leaving everyone shocked. Mercedes dismisses the board and tells them to move on, but the others blame her for the unsettling response. Realizing her mistake, Mercedes quiets down. Meanwhile, Liza is writing her book when the doorbell rings. She opens it to find another child in a Halloween costume. As she talks to the child, she notices a strange man nearby. She asks the kid who he came with, and the child replies that it is with her father, then goes to take the candy. Liza turns back to ask the man something, but he's gone. She quickly goes inside, looking through the window, but there's no one there. Shaken, she returns to her computer to continue writing. Elsewhere, a man places a pumpkin on a table and goes to the kitchen to get a knife. As he's walking back, a flashback hits him where his wife tells him that his mother has passed. Back in the present, he hears a noise from inside the house. He grabs the knife and moves toward the sound. Another flashback appears, this time his wife telling him that his mother left them money. Coming back to the present, the man begins searching the house. When he returns to the living room, he notices the pumpkin missing from the table. Yet another flashback strikes him, his wife searching for furniture when he suddenly kicks her from behind and buries her in the garden. Back to the present, the pumpkin unexpectedly attacks him and takes him out. Meanwhile, Liza hears a strange sound. She heads toward the basement, but before she can go downstairs, the doorbell rings. When she opens the door, another child is there, accompanied by her mother nearby. Liza feels confused when she sees the man again. She tells the child to scare him with her vampire teeth costume. But before the child can, the mother intervenes and takes her away. Liza, still unsettled, grabs a knife and heads down to the basement. Inside, she finds a child named Candy tied to a chair, screaming for help. Liza orders her to stop shouting, then heads back upstairs to continue writing. Meanwhile, a news report advises the public to stay safe by leaving a bowl of candy outside, ensuring that trick-or-treaters are wearing masks to avoid spreading COVID. A woman, while on the phone, hears the doorbell ring. She tells the children outside to take candy from the bowl, but when there is a knock again, she hangs up, puts on a mask, and opens the door. It's a child, but the candy bowl is empty. She apologizes and tells them to leave since they're not wearing masks. The doorbell rings once more. Frustrated, the woman opens the door to find a man in a Halloween costume. Noticing how well he's dressed, she heads to the kitchen to grab more candy. When she returns, the door is wide open. Quickly, she grabs her mask and puts it on. The man, wearing a Halloween mask, attacks her. She struggles to free herself, managing to pull off his mask, but he catches her. She tries to escape, running outside and calling for her neighbors. They ignore her, telling her she's not wearing a mask. The man then follows her and suffocates her with her own mask. On the other hand, Liza sees a picture of her daughter, but before she can react, the doorbell rings. She opens it to find a child without a costume. The boy is surprised when Liza hands him all the candy. Before he leaves, he hears a sound coming from inside the house. When he asks about it, Liza tells him she's watching a scary movie and urges him to leave. However, the sound persists from the basement. Liza places the knife on the table, blaming herself for what she's done, and continues with her writing. Meanwhile, a man drops a substance into a glass of whiskey. He's planning to go on a date with a woman, and she doesn't know about the substance he's slipped into her drink. He hands her the glass and compliments her on her style, though she remains silent, gesturing that she's mute. Later, the doorbell rings. When the man answers, he finds a child standing there. He gives him chocolate, and the boy leaves. Returning to the woman, the man finds the glass broken on the floor. He goes to the kitchen to grab a towel, but also picks up a tool. He tries to hit the woman with it, but she turns her face toward him, and he gives her only the towel instead. Once again, he tries to strike her, but the doorbell rings, stopping him. He quickly opens the door to give the child more candy, but the boy takes his time choosing. The man returns inside, preparing a rope and a knife. Before he can strike, the woman sees him in her face mirror. The doorbell rings again, and he goes outside to give all the candy to the child. When he comes back, he finds the woman missing. Then, he sees a news report about Whitney, the woman he was just with, who is revealed to be a slayer. Uno reverse. The man calls the police, explaining the situation, but just as he starts giving more details, the power goes out, and the call is suddenly interrupted. He heads to another room, but before he can do anything, Whitney unexpectedly attacks him in the neck with a shard of broken glass, leaving him lifeless. Meanwhile, back to Liza, Candy screams for help, and she tries to stop her. Candy bites Liza's hand in response and then confronts her, revealing that she knows something about Liza. The doorbell rings, and Liza goes to open it, but to her shock, it's a scary clown man. He asks her for candy, but Liza shouts at him, warning that she'll call the police. Then she slams the door shut. Soon after, there's another knock. When Liza opens it, she finds other children with their father. The father, noticing Liza's rude behavior, insults her before taking his kids away. Liza heads back to the basement and asks Candy who the strange man is, but Candy reassures her that she doesn't know. Liza, angry and frustrated, slaps Candy when she mentions that her husband and daughter have left her. However, right after, she apologizes, and Candy begs her to let her go. She assumes that the threatening man is someone Candy knows. She agrees to forget all this and tell the man that she is safe, only if Liza unties her. After a long argument, Liza finally agrees to release her. She cuts the rope but hears a sound from the living room. Liza goes to the living room and finds the menacing clown man there. Scared, she tells him that Candy has already left, but to her shock, Candy attacks Liza in the back. The man then takes the candy and leaves without offering any help. Turns out, the candy he wanted was the sweets rather than the girl. Talk about fatal misunderstandings.